So, explanation story. One of the great ones to have in your back pocket, right, when you're doing any sort of data storytelling. Because when you visualise your data and you're showing some phenomena that's happening in your business, in your industry, whatever it might be, you need to be able to sort of give a bit of a sense of the cause and effects that actually resulted in that data, right, in what you're showing. A classic example that sort of springs to mind comes from way back when I was doing my geography degree. One of the things we learned about was John Snow's cholera map. Right? Now, if you don't know that, go and Google, you'll find it. It's a black and white map that was essentially made in the 1800s in London, in the Soho area, and it showed essentially what happened with the deaths that occurred during one of the cholera outbreaks of London. And John Snow made an amazing insight out of that. Him and the local priest went around to all the houses that were affected by that outbreak, and they asked people how many people had died at each house. And they did this map, and they just drew a line, little bar graph, if you like, at each house address. So it's like a little map, and showed how many deaths. And what he showed pretty conclusively is that the disease was coming from the local water pump, right? Up until then, people thought cholera was an airborne disease, right? They showed it was going to be a waterborne disease. But that's not the explanation story. That's just how it came about in the sense of how that data was put together. The explanation story was, how did the cholera bacteria end up in the water, right? And it turned out it was a child who got cholera. They were sort of travelling from another part of London, and unfortunately, back in those days, sanitation wasn't great, and they just threw the child's nappies into the cesspit. Everyone had a cesspit in the bottom of their house. Lovely, I know. But that then seeped into the water pipes, and then people were just pumping that water. It looked perfectly clean, but it was actually full of cholera. That's the explanation story. And as soon as you hear that, you sort of go, the penny drops, and you go, oh, I see, that's how it actually occurred. So that, and the context of Snow going around collecting that data, gives something for people to hang on to. And just as if you like, a corollary to that, I went to Soho and I sought out that pump, which is still there. So you can go and have a look at the pump. Back in the day, John Snow actually got the pump handle taken off, and so you'll find a water pump in the middle of Soho that doesn't have a handle. That's the same pump. So anyway, check it out next time you're in London.